Somebody please think of the children. There are many everyday objects that could pose a serious danger to young children and others, some of which are even specifically designed for children. Some of these could even be in your house right now, threatening the lives of your loved ones. Now, before you overreact by burning your house down to eliminate any potential harmful possessions that you own, let's first tell you what these dangerous items are so you can determine whether or not you need to burn your house down. Getting a baby to fall asleep can be difficult, and it usually takes a few months before they're able to sleep through the night without waking you up. By 6 months old, only about 2/3 of babies will sleep through the night on a regular basis, and this constantly interrupted sleep can be a nightmare for working parents. Preach. But what if there was a product designed to help babies fall asleep faster and stay asleep longer? We'd all welcome it! The Fisher-Price Rock and Play Sleeper was introduced in 2009 to solve this problem. The product was a motorized bassinet that would rock the baby to sleep and provide soothing noises like nature sounds. Its interior was designed to be plush for extra soothing comfort for the baby, and it was marketed for babies from birth up to 25 pounds. Unfortunately, deaths associated with this product and other inclined sleepers resulted in recalls, lawsuits, and legislation. The Safe Cribs Act of 2022 made it illegal to sell, distribute, manufacture, or import inclined sleepers, though that doesn't mean the danger is suddenly gone. Millions of these products were sold since their creation, and they still routinely show up at garage sales and second-hand stores because not everybody is aware of the dangers they pose. So what exactly is it that makes these bassinets so dangerous? Quite simply, babies should be sleeping on a firm surface with little to no incline. The maximum incline allowed by federal regulations is only 10 degrees, but these inclined sleepers could feature an angle as steep as 30 degrees. If the baby's head were to fall forward while sleeping at such an angle, it could close off their airway. Should such an event occur, babies typically lack the strength required to lift their head on their own to reposition it. When an infant tries to lift its head off of the ground, it often needs to use its entire body to do so, pushing against the ground with its arms and legs. Unfortunately, the plush interior of these sleepers only made this more difficult, preventing them from being able to generate any sort of leverage with the rest of their body. Though new inclined sleepers have been outlawed in the United States, this is not the case throughout the entire world. They could also still be acquired secondhand in the US, so do be mindful of any products you purchase for infants. There are also other products such as swings and car seats that could put an infant in a similar incline, and it's important not to let a baby sleep in these either. It's not uncommon for a baby to fall asleep while in a sitting position, but they should always be moved to somewhere safer, even when only taking a quick nap, and even if you desperately don't want to risk waking them up so they start crying all over again. You may have been able to guess by the name of the bill, but it wasn't just inclined infant sleepers that were outlawed by the Safe Cribs Act of 2022. The law also outlawed crib bumpers, this padded lining in the interior of a crib. Stores would sell crib bumpers separately or included as part of the cribs, which led parents to believe that the products were safe. After all, why else would they be available in stores? The idea was that these bumpers would prevent a baby from getting their limbs tangled between the bars of the crib, from banging their head against the side of the crib, or from falling out of the crib entirely, although this last option should have been entirely impossible anyway. I am just realizing that I think my kid had one of these.
I'll have to call home.
But the reality is that these bumpers weren't actually providing any benefit, except that their little arms and legs would get stuck in the side. Though a baby could fit their arm or leg through the bars in a crib, they can often get them out on their own as well. In the event that a baby's leg did get trapped between the bars, it would be virtually impossible for them to break their leg or cause any other sort of injury to themselves. It would be an uncomfortable experience, and their cries would alert the parents of this, but it didn't pose a danger. Similarly, babies weren't facing any real danger from banging their heads against the side of the crib either. They're simply too weak to move with enough force to cause any serious injury, with the worst case scenario being a small bump or bruise. Not only were the bumpers providing no tangible benefit, but they were also being cited as a cause of death in far too many cases. These were usually the result of the infant being smothered between the bumper and part of the crib, something that happened even when the cribs were free of all other clutter. Children choking on the bumper ties that weren't fully out of reach was also a problem, and some older children used the bumpers to climb over the edge of the crib and fall on their head. Initial attempts at pushing forward legislation against crib bumpers failed, though many in the industry tried to self-regulate by making the bumpers thinner. Some even released bumpers that were just mesh fabric, serving only to prevent an infant's limbs from getting stuck between the bars, and I'm realizing that that is what I had. Fortunately, the previously mentioned law has banned crib bumpers, though non-padded mesh bumpers are excluded from the ban. While not nearly as dangerous, experts still recommend against using these since there isn't actually a benefit in having them. Except the arms don't get stuck, people! And it's like, yeah, it's not going to hurt them, but it'll wake them up, which you don't want. We already discussed this. The potential danger of laundry detergent pods has become a meme at this point, in no small part thanks to the genius Tide Pod challenge that went viral in 2017. The online fad resulted in at least 10 deaths, 37 cases of poisoning, and virtually zero sympathy for those that knowingly consumed laundry detergents in an attempt to chase clout online. It also overshadowed the very real danger that detergent pods can pose. What makes these so dangerous is the way that they're designed to work. The detergent is held in place by a thin film that quickly begins dissolving in water, thus allowing them to do their job in your washing machine. This means that if a child were to mistake a detergent pod for candy and put it in their mouth, even if a parent was watching and immediately made them spit it out, the film would quickly start dissolving from their saliva and could have already begun releasing the toxic chemicals into their mouths. Even handling the pods with wet wipes can be enough to make them start to dissolve. Fortunately, deaths as a result of detergent pods are not very common. In the first 6 years that the products were available, studies only found 8 deaths as a result, less than the number of deaths that occurred in the Tide Pod challenge. Injury, however, was a very different story. Every year, there was an average of over 12,000 calls to poison control centers around the US as a result of these pods. Though most did not prove to be fatal, that doesn't mean the chemicals aren't still dangerous. Nearly all of these cases involved children under the age of 6. The kids would unwrap the pods, mistaking them for candy, and place them in their mouths. Companies responded to this by making them less colorful and more difficult to unwrap, causing incidents involving children under 6 to fall by 20%. But it's not just children and wannabe influencers who fall victim to detergent pods. In fact, of the 8 deaths that occurred before the Tide Pod challenge, only 2 of them were actually children. The other 6 were elderly dementia patients who could have forgotten that these new inventions existed and assumed that the pods must have been candy. While the dangers of detergent pods may well be known, the ability of the film to quickly dissolve and release chemicals even without being bitten down on is often an underreported element of the dangers that they pose, as is the potential danger to elderly citizens rather than just children. Humidifiers are a common household appliance, most commonly found in areas with colder winters. Winter air tends to be much drier, and humidifiers can help ease a lot of the symptoms associated with dry air, such as dry skin, bloody noses, and overly dry sinuses, and they can even ease allergy symptoms and help loosen congestion when sick. For many people who are particularly sensitive to drier air, humidifiers are a bit of a lifesaver, but they aren't without their problems. Warm mist humidifiers work by simply boiling water, meaning they release hot steam that can cause burns to an unsuspecting individual. They also disperse any bacteria that was present in either the water or the humidifier into the air, which is, well, less than ideal. Wick-based humidifiers solve the issue of bacteria by blowing the water onto a thick paper wick that acts as a filter for the bacteria, but these devices are often extremely noisy. Ultrasonic humidifiers were seen as the perfect solution to these problems. They use a ceramic diaphragm vibrating at ultrasonic frequencies to create water droplets that are then released as a cool mist with the help of a tiny fan. There was no longer any hot steam to burn yourself on, and the ultrasonic devices were virtually silent. Because of these improvements over previous designs, they quickly rose to popularity as soon as they were invented. And this is another thing that I absolutely had, for my kids. What's wrong with it?
I failed as a parent.
However, ultrasonic humidifiers aerosolize everything that's in the tank. This includes any minerals that may have existed in the tap water, like calcium, magnesium, and sulfate. As the water droplets evaporate, these particles are left in the air before eventually leaving a white film on everything in the room. Anything else in the humidifier will be aerosolized as well, including residue from harsh cleaning products and mold and bacteria that may build up as a result of failing to clean the humidifier often enough. Bacteria and mold are obviously bad, though the minerals we mentioned are considered to be safe for human consumption. However, consuming them is different from breathing them in over a long period of time. So far, there's no definitive consensus that this is actually dangerous, but there is certainly evidence to suggest that it could be. When researchers out at the University of Alberta performed experiments using different types of humidifiers and different types of water, they found that tap water, even when filtered, resulted in an astonishingly high concentration of indoor particulate matter when an ultrasonic humidifier was used. They compared the level of air particulates equivalent to that of a major city during instances of extreme air pollution. While the risks of this are not yet agreed upon, children are more susceptible to the effects of air pollution, making the potential dangers of these humidifiers higher for younger children. Even though the jury's still out on exactly how dangerous ultrasonic humidifiers are, it may be best not to chance it, and regardless of what type of humidifier you use, it's important to clean them extremely regularly to prevent the build-up and subsequent dispersal of bacteria and mold. So now you know. Now I know. Dogs are a lot like children in that they try to demand your constant attention, and just like with children, it's often easier to just hand them a toy and hope that they'll entertain themselves for just a little bit so you can attempt to, get on with your life. But the main difference comes with how dog toys are regulated. In the United States, children's toys are closely monitored and regulated by the US Consumer Product Safety Commission. There are very strict standards that all toys designed for babies and children must meet, whether they are made in America or imported from abroad. But when it comes to dog toys, there aren't any regulations. You may have heard horror stories of dog toys that were found to have high lead or arsenic content, for example. That's not because these substances aren't harmful to dogs in the same way they're harmful to humans. It's just because there isn't anybody making sure that such toxic substances aren't included for dogs, because we care about them less. If you happen to be both a dog owner and the parent of young children, you may immediately see the problems developing here. Unless your dog is a jerk who refuses to share their toys, there's a good chance that the kids are going to get their hands on them and even put those toys in their mouths. This poses a number of potential problems for a young child. The toys may contain small parts or stuffing that are choking hazards, something that is not required to be on the label the same way it is on toys for humans. The plastic used may also be toxic. One of the common ingredients that used to appear in a lot of toys for babies was phythonates, a group of chemicals used to make plastic more durable and flexible. These were banned in 2009 in all toys for children under the age of 3 and are quite detrimental to human health. However, there is no law against using them in dog toys where they remain extremely common. This poses a risk to baby or toddler's health if they happen to get their hands on a dog toy, since it will inevitably wind up in their mouth. By mouthing the plastic toys, the phythonates can leach out of the plastic and into their system. Unfortunately, there's no simple solution to this problem. Because dog toys aren't regulated for safety, it's up to the consumer to research every toy they would consider buying to see if it contains anything that could potentially be harmful to a young child. The only real alternative is to somehow ensure that your children never get their hands on any of the dog's toys. That, or just don't get a dog as a pet if you're planning to have kids. Sure, you might want a dog, but please, think of the children.